Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the latest potential scandal to hit Rishi Sunak's new government, as Liz Truss's old chief whip is reported to have put in a formal complaint about Gavin Williamson, himself a former chief whip but part of Sunak's inner circle and a cabinet minister. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So when it comes to the Tories, there just seems no getting away from the sleaze and the scandals. Up until now, the scandals have generally been coming from the leaders. Boris Johnson brought scandal wherever he went. Liz Truss was the focus of her government blowing up as well. With Rishi Sunak, I think Tory MPs must have imagined that they could put these things behind them, stabilise things a bit. And in many ways, this is what's happened. Labour continue to enjoy a sizable lead in the polls, but the gap is closing. Rishi Sunak is unlikely to engage in the sort of reckless behaviour that made Truss and Johnson a target for those wanting to expose sleaze and corruption. He's not likely to fiddle expenses or blow a load of public money in excessively expensive dinners or get donors to pay for his opulence. Apart from anything else, he's rich enough to pay for it himself. But just because Sunak might conduct himself with a little bit of decorum doesn't mean he's not in the spotlight for sleaze either. And that's because his cabinet are not all conducting themselves with very much restraint. Suella Braverman remains a loose cannon, just as she was under Truss. She's going to be a pain in the arse for him until he can get rid of her, which at the moment he seems not to be able to do. But now Gavin Williamson is the focus of Tory sleaze. But before I get onto that, I'm just going to come back a little bit to the Suella Braverman thing, because, as we're discussing Rishi Sunak's wayward cabinet colleagues, it might be worth throwing a vaguely related bit of news in here. So despite my scepticism, it appears that Boris Johnson did, after all, get the nominations needed to enter the leadership contest. Adam Brooks MP, part of Johnson teams, he insisted that someone on the 1922 committee executive had told him it had been achieved. And, but without verification from them, I confess I was doubtful. I was thinking, yeah, okay, can we have the proof, please? Well, Sir Graham Brady has revealed that Johnson indeed did get the number needed. Now, what that means is, unequivocally, Boris Johnson absolutely could have entered, could have won that contest, could have been Prime Minister right now. Looking forward to the investigation into his lying in Parliament, which means he withdrew, not because he had to, not because he wasn't going to get the numbers. He withdrew because he didn't fancy the job anymore. Now, whether what he didn't fancy was trying to lead the party, which now seems ungovernable, or lead a party that is heading for election defeat, I don't know. Can only speculate on that. Could explore that notion another time if needed. But what it would suggest is that actually, after all, Rishi Sunak may not have needed Braverman's support. Suella Braverman was made Home Secretary in a deal for supporting Sunak in the leadership contest. The idea was to starve Johnson of potential support, stop him getting to the 100, because everyone knew if he got to the 100, and if he was in the contest that went to members, the members would vote for him. Well, if it turns out Johnson's got the support anyway, Sunak didn't really need Braverman's specific support in the leadership contest. He didn't actually gain anything from it. Mind you, he still needs it to govern. He can't now just get rid of her. But he may have gotten away with a more junior role for that. So all the aggro he's now getting from Leaky Sue may actually have been a little bit unnecessary. But anyway, the main act in today's circus show is Gavin Williamson. For some, having Williamson so close to Sunak, put him in the cabinet, seemed an odd move. Williamson was sacked by Theresa May for leaking confidential security information. I don't actually know if he was really guilty or just made a scapegoat, but officially that was the situation. That hangs over him. He was an incompetent education secretary in Johnson's government, even by the standards of his cabinet colleagues. But for me, it did sort of make sense for Sunak to be close to him. Yes, Williamson's an idiot, but he knows things. In fact, when Johnson came under pressure to sack Williamson in 2020, he made what some took to be veiled blackmail threats against colleagues. He basically was suggesting, I know things. You don't want to push me too far because I know things about you. In the end, Much later on, Johnson eventually did get rid of him, but gave him a knighthood to keep him sweet. Having Williamson in Sunak's team meant the Prime Minister had someone with the goods on a lot of Tory MPs in his corner. You know, he was made a minister in the Cabinet Office, so it's not a proper job. It's a cabinet position, but it's not a proper job. So he can't screw up any government departments. Seemed ideal for Sunak to, you know, it's a way of making Williamson a cabinet member without giving him a department to mess up. But now Wendy Morton, now this was Liz Truss's chief whip. She's had an exciting few weeks. Well, she's filed an official complaint against Williamson. So according to a report, she is alleging, well, the words used were vile and threatening messages from Williamson towards her. There's believed to be evidence. And other MPs who'll back Morton up. Labour was straight onto it, of course. Angela Rayner, who's the deputy leader, but also the chief attack dog against Tory sleaze. That's her job. Not attack dog, but, you know, she's the one who's dealing with Tory sleaze issues. She suggested that this just adds to the question about Sunak's judgment and appointing his cabinet. Rayner's also called for an independent investigation. Obviously, there won't be one. But then Labour can say, well, what are you hiding? What are you hiding, Prime Minister? Why won't you have a proper investigation? And they know that this is potentially an open wound for Sunak. Williamson's not exactly widely respected on the Tory benches. He must have been once. He must certainly have either been respected or feared. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been chief whip in the past. But these days, he puts a lot of people's noses out of joint. There are Tory MPs who wouldn't mind at all Williamson being sacked from cabinet for a third time. But we know that Williamson, you know, we know what he's like. We know what he's like when the sharks are circling because it's happened before, a few years ago, a couple of years ago anyway. He's already threatened things in the past. And it's not like Sunak, if he had to get rid of him, can offer him another knighthood. He's already got one, you know, if he had to ease him out. So Sunak now has got 2 cabinet ministers that are blowing holes in his attempts to claim he is leading a government guided by integrity. Although there won't be an independent investigation, there'll obviously have to be an internal party investigation. And if there are enough MPs who are not comfortable with Williamson being in the cabinet, that might result in a bit of extra pressure on Sunak as well to take the issue seriously. You know, when we look back to the final parliament of the last Tory government, it was riven with sleaze. But it wasn't the Prime Minister who was considered to be amongst the offenders. You know, as far as we knew, you know, he was the image of propriety. We didn't know he was banging Edwina Curry at the time. That emerged later. But it was John Major's cabinet ministers and even some backbenchers who were destroying the reputation of the party. So it doesn't necessarily matter if Sunak does keep his nose clean. As far as the public are concerned, you know, the behaviour and scandals of those around him are just as relevant because it's the party mostly that they're voting for. So in the second week of Sunak as Prime Minister, we've now got 2 of his cabinet colleagues embroiled in serious accusations of unbecoming behaviour of one form or another. I wonder which scandal will pop up next week. Maybe Michael Gove's going to get busted for dealing in the House of Commons toilets or something. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.